Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and we are back for a live show. We were 10 minutes into our live show and my mic and camera and USBs in my laptop just completely shut off and didn't work, and then I had to restart my laptop about 4 times. But we are back. We are live. Hopefully no technical issues with this show. That's never happened before. We're going to talk about Ugarte to Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano's given some updates on that. I'm going to swing through that quickly because that's what we were talking about when we crashed. We've actually got through most of that in my last show. We're going to talk about a potential Branthwaite swap deal, a double exit plan, a Todibo loophole plan, Ruud van Nistelrooy to Man United being close and being the first big deal this summer, and Kobbie Mainoo's good performances for England. I have to say, Kobbie Mainoo was very, very good for England last night, and I can't believe people were making him the scapegoat. We lose to Iceland. Kobbie Mainoo has an average performance, but is still better than about 5-6 other players on the pitch. People start writing that Kobbie Mainoo is the problem. So we play Trent in midfield for 2 games, doesn't work. Play Gallagher in midfield for the first half, doesn't work. Kobbie Mainoo comes in midfield. Oh, England's midfield looks miraculously better. It's almost like Mainoo was scapegoated off the basis he's a Manchester United player and people are jealous. Oh, I wonder why. But let's dive into the Ugarte to Manchester United news, the Ugarte to Manchester United stories as well. So I'm going to get through this quickly because we did speak about this in my live show earlier, but it was said Manuel Ugarte has chances to leave PSG this summer as the club is open to selling him in case of a good proposal. Manchester United have made contact with PSG and talks were on several players and possibilities, including Ugarte. No bid has been submitted. Yeah, so Romano is saying, yes, it's true. Manchester United are interested in Ugarte. We do have an interest in Ugarte, but we haven't made a bid. There's sources coming out from France, and good sources come out from France saying we've made a bid, but I don't know if PSG are briefing good sources from France that we've made a bid to encourage other teams to make a bid to increase competition so they can get a bit more money for Ugarte, who they want to sell after he had a bad season. But Manchester United genuinely have a strong interest in Manuel Ugarte. They haven't made a bid for the player, but they've had talks for the players. Now, you've also got to remember we had talks for Edson Alvarez. Romano came out last week and confirmed that Manchester United have contacted the agents of multiple midfielders. One was Edson Alvarez, another one has now been confirmed as Ugarte. The other ones are believed to be João Gomes, João Neves, Human, Anana, and Fofana. But we don't know. There could be a surprise name there in midfield. Now, interestingly, he said when we made talks with PSG, several players were discussed, and one player that may have been discussed with PSG is Xavi Simons. Manchester United have had an interest in PSG. An interest in Simons for a while. Now the Elise deal's off, there's definitely an increasing chance that Manchester United could pursue a deal for someone like Xavi Simons. Man United, wanted Elise, but they couldn't get him. They couldn't prioritise a winger, but PSG are open to loaning out Xavi Simons. Now, I think we should only do a loan with an obligation to buy, because then we actually get something from it rather than improving their player. But if Man United feel that they need more improvements on the width, Xavi Simons is someone that can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play in the middle. That's something that United could potentially explore. So I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't just Ugarte being discussed, but potentially the likes of Xavi Simons could also be discussed. Maybe even a Gonzalo Ramos as a backup striker could be discussed as well. I think the negotiation with PSG is about a loan fee, probably going to cost just like Amrabat. Well, there is reports of PSG only wanting to do a loan deal for Ugarte. It was said by Fabrizio Romano on the Here We Go podcast, there were some contacts in the last 24 to 48 hours for Manuel Ugarte. Manchester United discussed several opportunities between the two clubs. It was not a formal process, not an official bid, but one of the names mentioned was Manuel Ugarte. So he's saying we spoke up to PSG about a couple of players, and one of the names mentioned was Ugarte. Now, French sources, and these are reliable French sources, are saying, we made a bid for Ugarte. Now, I don't know if we made a bid for Ugarte or not. I'm personally going to believe Romano and just say that we had talks and maybe discuss what it would cost. And PSG want the 50 million they paid for him, but there are rumours saying they maybe take over 40 million. That's not seen as a massive loss. And I think 40 million for Ugarte is a good deal because he was a fantastic player at Sporting. Like, yes, he's been poor at PSG, and yes, there's limitations in his possession game. But if you look at him at Sporting, you look at Kobbie Mainoo's possession game, it could work potentially well. I think Man United have spoken about Ugarte. I think they've explored Ugarte. I think he's on the list of maybe 4 or 5 other options in midfield, and they're weighing out what's the price, what's the likelihood that we can get him and he wants to come, how does he fit the system, what does Ten Hag think, how does he suit the way we want to play, and then I think United will prioritise one. As centre-back, we know that Branthwaite and Todibo are the two that we've been prioritising, but obviously Todibo, there's now some loopholes in it. I think at midfield, but there's going to be a position where Man United are like, you know what, this is the midfielder we want. This is the midfielder we're going to prioritise. This is the midfielder we're going to go for. I think that's the situation. So I don't know if we've made a bid for Ugarte, but obviously there's talks going on, as Romano said. It was said by Jason Burt of The Telegraph that Manchester United have been in contact with PSG about signing Manuel Ugarte. PSG sources claim that a formal bid has been rejected as it fell significantly below their valuation, and other clubs, including some from the Premier League, are interested. It was said that Manchester United insists there has been initial interest in Manuel Ugarte and only exploratory talks have taken place so far. However, United are weighing up whether to make what they would consider a formal offer should they move on other targets. So Jason Burt, again, is sort of saying things around the same lines as saying, apparently there was a bid for Ugarte that they rejected. Man United put in a bid that was quite low, and apparently Man United are one of many Premier League teams interested in the player. But he is saying that Man United say that they haven't put in a bid, it's just interest in Ugarte, and they had some talks with PSG. They also had talks with PSG about other players that weren't Ugarte, which I would guess would be Xavi Simons. Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in, worked with Simons at PSG. Man United were exploring Simons a week ago. We got some info on that and did a live stream on that. Xavi Simons could be available on loan. We can't get Elise. We need a winger option. I think Xavi Simons is likely the other player that Man United explored. However, he said that United are weighing up whether they should make an offer or not. Maybe Man United were beating around the bush. Maybe Man United were exploring the idea of, how much is Ugarte going to cost? What's it realistically going to cost to bring Manuel Ugarte in? I think Manchester United were probably looking at it from that angle and exploring it from that angle. And it's believed that Manuel Ugarte, PSG signed him for 50 million. I think it was 51.8 million if you want an exact fee, and they want to recoup most of that. I think a deal could be struck in the 40 million range. Now, I think Ugarte 40 million, if Weefa's 30 million and Fofana's 25 million, I think that's some really good options there. Personally, my favourite two options are Weefa and Fofana because they're cheaper than Ugarte. They've both had good seasons and they're better on the ball. And because Kobbie Mainoo's our only good midfielder on the ball, if Mainoo gets injured, then you have to put Ugarte in midfield with someone that's not good on the ball. I think like the balance in midfield is going to be iffy and it's not going to work. Is if we sign Ugarte and then another midfielder that's good on the ball, like if we sign Ugarte and Fofana as two midfield signings for a combined like £60 million, I think that is really good business. I like Ugarte. He wasn't good at PSG. He didn't have a good season at PSG. There's no beating around the bush of that. But I think if you look at the player at Sporting, he was shown that he could be a top DM at Sporting. He's shown at Sporting this is a top player. This guy could be a top signing. Like, I'm a massive fan of the idea of Ugarte to Manchester United. I think that he's a good player, but only for the right fee. My first choice is Weefa and Fofana, just because they're better on the ball and they've had better seasons. So I think when we need a bit of someone that's still good on the ball, I think Weefa suits Kobbie Mainoo to a T. I think his long-leggedness, I think his physical ability off the ball. We can do the dirty work like Ugarte, but it's better on the ball. But if we're talking off the ball, dirty work, there's no one better than Ugarte. If we're talking on the ball, Fofana and Weefa do give us more technical security. They've both had a good season and they're both available for a cheaper fee. So they would be my first two options, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at the idea of Ugarte because even Graham Bailey said that PSG are open to loaning out Manuel Ugarte with an option to buy. He is open to leaving the French side as well. So there's definitely, possibilities there in terms of maybe an Ugarte loan deal. And I think doing a loan deal with an option to buy, maybe not obligation, but option to buy, could be some really smart business as well. If we've got to save money because of FFP, fine where he's found it, we could say, look, we'll have a loan deal for Ugarte. If he's worth it, we'll buy him for 45 million PSG. You get your money back. How about that? For me, if we could get a loan deal for someone that's actually going to be a regular start, I think that could be some good business. You can get Branthwaite for 50 million. If we can find a loophole for Todibo, that's the defence sorted. Get Ugarte on loan, then you've got maybe funds to go and get Yusuf Fofana, then bulk up that midfield and get the two signings you need. So you've got two players that are good on the ball in midfield, not just relying on Mainoo. Because if Mainoo gets injured, it could be like Martinez getting injured last season where it just completely goes wrong. And then you can then focus, okay, we can maybe spend some money on Desiree Doué. We can maybe spend some money on a striker now. We can maybe look at a left back. I think there's definitely a lot of decent ways Man United can go about it. Guys, we've got over 200 people watching. Please do hit that like button. We're 8 minutes into the show. We had literally 400 people watching 8 minutes into the show that I did half an hour ago that crashed. So I want to get everyone back into the show. So please do hit the like button. It will really help get the video out there, share the video and more as we dive into these stories as well. Nubis says this: United need at least two midfielders. It's scary if United are relying solely on Ugarte. Imagine if you can't really possession based, we're doomed next season. Ugarte loan, Weefa and Fofana sign. Ugarte is a good player, and there's no doubt in my mind that Ugarte and Mainoo can work super well. I think Ugarte can do the dirty work and partner Mainoo well. But you're absolutely right. Regardless of who we sign, I still think we need two midfielders no matter who we sign. Weefa and Fofana, Ugarte and Fofana. For me, Ugarte and Fofana would be really good business because Fofana can play as more of an 8, Ugarte can play more as an 8. There isn't really many players in the market that you would consider as lone sixes. In fact, There's barely any players in the market that you'd say, yeah, he's a lone six. But if you look at sort of the players in the market, you look at the players out there, Fofana and Ugarte are pivot players. And if you sign two pivot players alongside Maino, who's a pivot player that's definitely more better in those more advanced roles, I think all of a sudden you've got good depth. You've got Mason Mount and Bruno that can cover the 10. You've got Ugarte, Fofana, and Maino that can all cover the pivot positions. And personally, I think that could work really, really well. Guys, what's the stream quality like? I hope we're not getting any lag in. Do let me know what the quality is like as well. Yeah, there's definitely a few decent midfielders out there as well. PSG would probably ship Ugarte out and go for Neves. That's the one thing. PSG want João Neves and Man United want João Neves, but PSG need a bit of funds to get João Neves in. If we sign Ugarte, we could be giving PSG the funds to go for a rival João Neves. Now, if I'm going to be honest, Man United want João Neves. João Neves is brilliant. I'm open to the idea of João Neves at Manchester United, but I don't think we're in a position where we can spend more than 60 million on one position, and João Neves is probably going to cost at least 80 million. And I also think that he's a second midfield signing. It's almost like João Neves for me is a next season signing. It's almost a player that you want to see spend another year at Benfica, continue his development and become more of a next season signing, João Neves. In all honesty, if you get what I'm saying, he's definitely a next season sort of player. Now, I want to dive into some more stories because we were talking about Ugarte in the first stream, which ended up crashing, which is super, super annoying. So I want to talk about some Branthwaite stories. I want to talk about the Branthwaite news. I want to talk about Wan-Bissaka news and all of that as well. But it was said that Everton are interested in both Victor Lindelof and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. This was news coming out from TalkSport that Everton are interested in signing both Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka. Now, obviously, we want Jarrad Branthwaite. We want to lower the price of Jarrad Branthwaite. There is definitely potential of Manchester United being able to maybe use someone like Wan-Bissaka or someone like Lindelof and potential to lower the Branthwaite price. I'd say, you know what? Give us 30 million. We'll give you Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka and 30 million for Branthwaite. I think you could do something like that. And I think that's a good deal for Everton because I'd value Lindelof at 15 million and Wan-Bissaka at 15 million, which is 30 million combined. I value Branthwaite at 50 million. You could say 30 million and Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka. You can have a deal for Branthwaite. That's something United could explore. Or you could say, you know what? 40 million and Wan-Bissaka and you for Branthwaite, or 40 million and Lindelof for Branthwaite. Now, Lindelof isn't really a Branthwaite replacement because he's a complete polar opposite of defender, and I don't actually see Lindelof as a Sean Dyche kind of defender, but there's definitely options there for United to explore. I think we can get 25 million for Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof combined. I think we can get 30 million for Casemiro, 30 million for Greenwood. I think we could get 30 million for Sancho. I think that we can get 10 million for Eriksen. I think the money we're saving on wages on Varane and Martial comes for 40 million. Like, we are sort of raising money, but we just need to get those sales over the line. Now, Branthwaite is one of those where it's the 26th of June today. Everton's PSR sort of restrictions will be ending around June 30th, which means that if the deal is going to be done for Branthwaite, I'd expect movement in the coming days. Still PSR, still issues around that, but I'd say if there's going to be something for Branthwaite, keep an eye on it. Make sure you subscribe with that post notification bell because if there is updates on Branthwaite, it will come soon. I think United could put in a higher bid. Everton will want to sell by June 30th, so I definitely think something could advance for Branthwaite in the coming days. Guys, please do hit that like button. It will really help get the video out there. This is the second live stream, so it will really help push the video out there for the people that haven't been notified because I had to quickly end the live stream and start a new one as well. Let's go for 100 likes as well. Swap deal may never happen. To be honest, I don't think a swap deal is going to happen. Would I be open to a swap deal to get Jarrad Branthwaite? Absolutely. Do I think a swap deal is going to happen to be able to require Jarrad Branthwaite? Probably not. I'd rather move on Shaw than Wan-Bissaka. Shaw is more injury prone, and that's a frustration, but we know when Shaw is fit, he's good enough to be our starting left back. When Wan-Bissaka's fit, he's a good bench option. He's a good option for 1v1 for marking out a game. For me, Luke Shaw, he's been injured all season. It's going to be difficult to move him on. I give Luke Shaw one more season, bring in the left back, gradually mould Luke Shaw out the team, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, because I do really like Luke Shaw. I think he's a top player. Alice, why don't we buy 3 top quality young players instead of 5 steady eddies and build a quality team for the future? Get Neves, Silva, Sesko and build a top team. Well, Sesko we can't get now because he's opted to stay at Leipzig. Antonio Silva's going to cost about 80 million and Neves is going to cost about 100 million. I like your thinking, but we also have to be realistic with the price. Now, when I think of young team, I think Desiree Doué, 18 years of age, is going to be around the £30 million mark. That could be a really good option. Xavi Simons we could potentially get on loan, could be a good option, but those really, really young players are a bit overrated. Esteval I think is a fantastic player, but Chelsea spending 30 million on Esteval, 20 million on Amari Kellyman. Like, the youth market is getting crazy expensive, that I think the best way we can go is those 23, 24-year-olds are the good players that could take that step up. Branthwaite is 21, 50 million. It's a little bit overpriced, but we go there. Desiree Doué, 18 years of old, 35 million. Bosch, yes, Fafana's 25, Weaver's 24, but I think we can sign some 24, 25-year-olds. I think that's a good age. You need a mix of players that are potential, 19, 20, 21. You need a mix of players that are sort of in their prime or entering their prime, 23 to 27, 28, and maybe you need that little bit of mix of experience in the side. But I do agree with what you're saying to an extent. Jao Neves is brilliant. Diamonde is brilliant. Sesko is obviously out of range, but Xerxes 22, striker exploring, Branthwaite 21, Desiree Doué 18, maybe he's 19 now. Diamonde is an option I'd be really open to, and he's in that sort of, I think he's going to be in that sort of £50 million range, and he's age 20 as well. It'd be brilliant as well. Framano tweeted 15 minutes ago, PSG will let Ugarte go if a good proposal is made. My issue, what do PSG consider a good proposal? Well, I'm hearing that PSG just want to get the bulk of their funds back for Ugarte, which could mean they accept something in the 40 million range. Any Aaron Anselmo news, Alice? Thank you, Stephanie, for the question. So I'm talking about centre-backs at the moment. Branthwaite is the one we're exploring. Branthwaite's the one we're focused on. Now, Chelsea, surprise, surprise. Chelsea advancing on a young player. Chelsea trying to force a move for a youth player. Surprise, surprise. Is anyone surprised? Absolutely not. I was starting to push for Aaron Anselmo, starting to test the waters for Anselmo. I don't know why, because you just spent 150 million in the last 3 windows in players that have not played a minute for you and are completely unproven. But Chelsea are pushing for Aaron Anselmo because that's what Chelsea do. Man United definitely had an interest in Aaron Anselmo earlier in the transfer window. Now, if you don't know who Aaron Anselmo is, he plays for Boca Juniors. He's just turned 19 years of age. He's a very good centre-back that's very good on the ball. Reminds me a lot of Christian Romero of Spurs, who's an incredibly underrated player. People think that Christian Romero of Spurs is bad because Spurs are Spursy and Spurs concede goals or he gets red cards. But Christian Romero of Spurs is a very, very good player. And he really reminds me of him, the way that he's good at playing out from the back, ball playing, and United have been looking at this guy. United actually held talks with Boca about this potential signing, and I think United's plan was to bring in Todibo and Anselmo and then loan Anselmo to Nice. But obviously there's this big loophole with Todibo going on at the moment, which is obviously going to make the possibility for that a lot more difficult. But obviously, it has been said by Sasha that Ineos have hired a lawyer in an attempt to unblock sort of Jean-Claire Todibo to United, try and find the loophole. If Chelsea own Man United, I think Todibo would be in a Man United shirt and they would have found a loophole by now. And I think Manchester United are out there really trying their best to see if they can potentially find a loophole for a deal as well. But I think Anselmo's one to watch. But I think Manchester United are in a position where they're like, well, we want a centre-back that's ready now. Anselmo isn't ready now. Like, we've lost Varane. We need a centre-back that's ready now. I think Anselmo comes in as a second centre-back signing. Maybe they get Branthwaite and Anselmo because we can't get Todibo. But I think United want a centre-back that's 100% ready now, and that is their focus. And then potentially they could put in a bid for Anselmo that they view highly. But I think we're in a position where our first team is such a mess that we can't afford to spend too many of the funds on unproven players. Even though I think Anselmo could be a top-level centre-back, I think we're in a position where the first team is such a mess that we're not in a position where we can afford to spend too much money on players that aren't completely proven. And the reason I say that is because we need players that are ready now. We need players that are going to improve the team now. Anselmo could potentially step up and do that, but I think it is a big ask for a young player with a little experience as well. Get Todibo and loan Nice Camboala. He needs game times to develop further. In an ideal world, I agree with that, but obviously due to financial issues, getting a Todibo deal over the line is looking increasingly more unlikely as well. But guys, we've got over 450 people watching. Can we hit the 100 like target? We literally had like 400 people in the chat, and then the stream crashed. So we're not getting as many people in as normal because we've had to launch the stream right after. So I'd really appreciate it if you would hit that like button to get the stream out there, to share the stream out there as well. My other worry about Ugarte is he's currently on 100k a week and is willing to stay on that wage or move to United. Is he going to want a significant pay increase? Well, I think if he's had a bad season at PSG don't want him. I think, to be honest, Man United, we're giving Anthony 200 grand a week. We'll give Ugarte 120 grand a week. That isn't a bad deal. Ugarte on 100 grand a week wages, we can afford that. I think that's pretty fair as well, and he's happy on those wages. If he's not gonna, for me, if Ugarte's told he's not in PSG's plan, he's not going to play regularly for PSG. That's what Ugarte's being told. You're not in PSG's plan. You're not going to play regularly for PSG. You're on 100k a week. Or I think Man United are in a position where all they really need to do is match Ugarte's wages, and I think potentially if they match Ugarte's wages, they can get a deal over the line. I want to talk about other deals, though. I want to talk about other stories. I want to talk about other reports going about. And this is obviously on Ruud van Nistelrooy. It was said, as Erik ten Hag's contract enters final stages, there will be changes in staff with Ruud van Nistelrooy as a strong candidate to join Man United. Erik ten Hag has moved closer to signing a new contract at Man United following positive talks with the club, and sources say agreeing ten Hag's new contract is a priority, but insists that nothing's been finalised yet. It's also been said that Ruud van Nistelrooy would be handed a senior role on Manchester United's coaching staff. We spoke about Ruud van Nistelrooy a lot in the last few live streams, but it looks like it could be the first sort of proper deal for Man United this summer, and I think that this could be a really good deal. I know it's not a signing, I know it's not a new signing and Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in, but as I said, a guy that finished second with PSV in the 22-23 season, won 2 trophies, the Cruyff Shield and the equivalent of the Dutch FA Cup, a guy that played good football, that put a lot of faith in the 19-year-old Xavi Simons that ended the campaign as top scorer, put a lot of faith in the 19-year-old Branthwaite who coached him and mentored him personally, a guy in interviews that speaks so positively about football and about the game and the way it's played. Like, we could see Ruud van Nistelrooy in interviews out there saying, look, Erik ten Hag lost to Arsenal because Erik ten Hag wasn't trying to control the game, wasn't trying to win the game. They got lucky with the goal. He brought on Fred. He was being defensive. You know, we spoke about in my other live stream the comments that Ruud van Nistelrooy was making on Erik ten Hag and his tactics, and he was absolutely spot on it. You know, I like ten Hag, but the approach we played versus Arsenal when we lost to them was pretty bad. We're talking about lost them in the 22-23 season, and Ruud van Nistelrooy was saying, yeah, we should have done that. We weren't in control of the game. When Ruud van Nistelrooy spoke about Man United games and where we've gone wrong, he's hit the nail on the head. So to have Ruud van Nistelrooy come in as someone that's going to impact ten Hag, someone that's going to work with ten Hag in a senior role, someone that's going to obviously wants to put focus and development in youth, someone that's won trophies, someone that's best in class as an assistant manager, who also has experience working with Branthwaite, could help attract Xavi Simons, who we could bring in from PSG, but also Højlund and his development. We saw how a week working with Robin van Persie resulted in Højlund scoring in 7 or 8 games in a row. Maybe Van Nistelrooy can get the best out of Højlund, because if you're talking about a clinical striker, someone that's movement and reading and understanding of the game was the best. You don't get much better than Ruud van Nistelrooy. So him coming in again could be a really good option. Guys, let's push for 200 likes. Please do hit that like button if you have not already, and of course subscribe down below if you're new as well. The way we are going, Ruud van Nistelrooy will be playing. I mean, to be honest, I'm not totally against the idea of Ruud van Nistelrooy playing for Man United. Guys, just let me know in the chat, what is the stream quality like? Is it lagging? Is it of decent quality? Is it improving? Do let me know down below in the chat. But let's talk about Kobbie Mainoo. I will get back into news. I will get back into stories. And I'm so annoyed that the initial live stream has crashed because it was going so well as well. But I want to talk about Kobbie Mainoo. 100% crosses completed, 100% tackles won, 97% pass accuracy, 33 out of 34 passes completed, 2 duels won, and 1 dribble. How much better did England look with Kobbie Mainoo and Cole Palmer on the pitch? They looked a lot better. They looked a lot better. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think, is a scapegoat, and I think it's Southgate's fault, not Trent's fault, that Trent wasn't playing well. He's not a midfielder, particularly a midfielder that's asked to go deep, receive the ball with the centre-backs. He's a creative player. Trent needs to start on the right for England. He's the most creative player, have that outlet on the right. Saka was isolated because Walker doesn't push up and help an attack. Conor Gallagher is legs. Conor Gallagher brought energy, but Conor Gallagher didn't touch the ball, didn't contribute too much. He just brings the legs. He just brings the energy. The 45 minutes of Kobbie Mainoo was better than the cameos we had of Trent in the first 2 games and the cameo we had of Conor Gallagher in 45 minutes. It was. Kobbie Mainoo, after the Iceland game, was getting stick. People were writing that Kobbie Mainoo hasn't got what it takes to play for England. People were going in on Kobbie Mainoo. Oh, Kobbie Mainoo's not good enough for England. Oh, Kobbie Mainoo was now becoming, the scapegoat. Kobbie Mainoo became the scapegoat. We lost to Iceland and Kobbie Mainoo became the scapegoat. We played 2 games without Kobbie Mainoo in midfield. The midfield was shocking. We played the first half without Kobbie Mainoo in midfield. The midfield was shocking. Kobbie Mainoo comes on and England look a little bit better in the second half, look a little bit more threatening in attack. We looked better with Kobbie Mainoo on the field. So all the journalists that were giving, Jacob Steinberg blamed Declan Rice's poor performance versus Iceland on Kobbie Mainoo not being a good partner for him and said expect Gallagher to come in and Rice's performances to improve. Rice in the first half was shite. Rice in the second half was quite good. Oh, Rice's performance improved next to Mainoo. Rice was crap next to Gallagher. Rice was even worse next to Trent. But, Mainoo was getting a blame from a Chelsea journalist for Rice playing bad, but Rice played bad next to Trent and Gallagher. Mainoo came on and that was the best we saw Rice. The best game we've seen England play under Southgate in the last 3 months was against Belgium when we had a Rice, Bellingham, Mainoo midfield 3. That was the best that we've seen in England against Belgium. Kobbie Mainoo was in the midfield and Belgium a half-decent side. Kobbie Mainoo's getting the scapegoat. Oh, Kobbie Mainoo, he's not good enough for England. I mean, Kobbie Mainoo's making the mainstream media look like absolute idiots because Kobbie Mainoo was class. I thought Kobbie Mainoo, it wasn't like world class, it wasn't 9, 10 out of 10, but Kobbie Mainoo came on and England looked better as well. Kobbie Mainoo could have scored if Kane passed back. Kobbie Mainoo put such a good ball in the box, and that's where you want Bellingham to be running in. That's where you want Kane to be running in, and they weren't there. His flick to Kane was good. Kobbie Mainoo was playing some good stuff. He was. Rasmus Højlund didn't have the best Euros, no, but him like Benjamin Sesko had no service. And that's why I said Benjamin Sesko is a very similar striker to Rasmus Højlund, which is why I was like, well, I like Sesko. I don't want to break the bank for him because if we're not going to give Højlund service, it's not going to change much with Benjamin Sesko coming in as well. Rice was good from the start, stop waffling. I thought Rice was much better in the second half. Rice was good in the first game next to Trent. He was poor in the second game. I didn't think he started the first half well. I thought he looked better in the second half. Bellingham starting to look like he's got a bigger ego. Also, these senior players threatened by Mainoo, they barely passed to him. I don't know if that's the case. Mainoo had more passes than Gallagher in 15 minutes. But yeah, Bellingham looks a little bit untouchable. He looks a little bit undroppable, which I don't always think is a good thing to create, if I'm going to be completely honest. I do agree with what you're saying, but I also think that Bellingham and Foden don't work together. Foden's coming central to get on the ball, which means Bellingham is now going to have to play out on the left-hand side. And you can tell that Bellingham doesn't want to be going out and playing on the left-hand side. So it's a bit of a situation, really, with Bellingham and with everything going on that actually, like, well, we're now pushing Bellingham out to play on the left so Foden can come central. So what's the point? For me, you've got to play one of Foden or Bellingham. You can't play them both. Either play Foden as a 10, either play Bellingham as a 10 and put Gordon on the left and put Mainoo in the midfield behind them next to Rice. That's the thing as well. Someone said England are awful. I mean, England were awful. Let's be honest. England were awful. They're boring. I mean, look, I think Slovenia, to be fair to them, they defended well. They parked the bus. They made it difficult for Manchester United. They did defend really well. But yeah, England were particularly awful. England were honestly particularly poor. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that in the slightest as well. Man United putting in a new bid for Ugarte? Well, apparently we are, but again, I don't know how true that is. But we are looking at loopholes around the Todibo deal, which will be interesting as well. Do you think Southgate should be sacked? I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't sack him halfway through an international tournament. I think it was Ivory Coast that did that, but I don't agree with sacking people midway through a tournament. We need a winger like Williams or Højlund. I think a winger that's going to provide service, Nico Williams, Desiree Doué, Pedro Neto, someone that's going to provide service for Højlund is really going to help. We have really good direct wingers, so if you've got a Joshua Zirkzee, Garnacho and Rashford are great. Joshua Zirkzee is like a Firmino. He drops deep, he comes to the ball, he facilitates his wingers in. His wingers are the primary goal scorers. Højlund is a goal scorer. We need people that are going to create service for Højlund. Rashford's a direct winger. Garnacho's a direct winger. Amad Diallo is more of a creative winger. Yeah, you're 100% right. For me, we need a winger that's going to create service for Højlund, or we need to go out and get a Joshua Zirkzee and then question what the role of Højlund is, or try and find a way around both as well. Someone said, Alice, hate to break it for you, we're not getting Branthwaite, we're going for Calafiore, real talented defender, not overhyped. I don't think we're going for Calafiore. I like Calafiore. I'm open for us to go to Calafiore. I'd like to see us get Calafiore, but I don't think we're going for Calafiore in the slightest as well. Palmer, Mainoo and Gordon should all be starting for England, says Kaya. I mean, they all put in a good performance, good enough to start. I'd play Trent at right back over Walker. I'd play Mainoo in midfield and I'd play Gordon on the left. And I think you can argue that Palmer should be given a go on the right. Despite Saka normally being good in an England shirt, I think Cole Palmer had a really good cameo. I want to get into this last story, guys, before I end the live stream, but we will be back this afternoon for a live stream. But this last story is coming in on Todibo, and it has been said that Ineos want to complete the transfer of Jean-Claude Todibo to Manchester United and is contesting the regulations put in place. Swiss lawyer Gianpaolo Montereri has been hired to plea before the Court of Arbitration Sport in favour of a move from Nice to United. So the fact that we're taking this deal to court, the fact that we're trying to find a way to get Todibo says to me we really want Todibo. And if we're willing to take this deal to court, I think that United genuinely really want Todibo. And United are generally really pushing for Todibo. Will we get a deal for Todibo over the line or not? I can't tell you that. But we're taking the deal for court. We're pushing and pushing and pushing for the Todibo move. I think that he's a genuine player that we're interested in. He's a genuine player that we're interested in getting a deal done for. And United are pushing for Todibo. So, yeah, I'm all over the idea of Todibo to Manchester United. I hope that we can find a way around it. I hope that we can find a loophole and get that Todibo deal done, because I think that would be a great signing for United as well. We're 23 likes away from 150 likes, people, so please do continue to smash that like button. I'd really appreciate it if we hit 150 likes. We did a live stream at like at 9 o'clock and it crashed 10 minutes in. We had 400 people in the live stream within like 10 minutes. It was going really well, and then we've had to restart the live stream. So it's been a bit frustrating, but it would really help the channel if you do hit that like button. And of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, takeover news, and more, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because right now we're getting updates on Todibo. I'm sure we're going to get updates on Todibo in the next few days. Man United taking the deal to court. There could be some progression on it. Branthwaite, if the deal for Branthwaite is going to be done, it's going to be done before June 30th, which means there's only 3 or 4 days left in the Branthwaite situation as well. We've also got news of Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka potentially being used in a swap deal. Could they be used in a swap deal as well? I'm not 100% sure. Van Nistelrooy to Man United is edging closer. Man United have had talks with Xerxes, but I will say with Joshua Xerxes to Man United, don't expect anything till the Euros is over, till July 1st. Now, England have Netherlands, I believe, in the next stage of the Euros, which I think could potentially work. I want to actually show you something on my screen quickly here, which I think is particularly interesting. And I think Robbo hits the nail on the head here. He said this. He said, I cannot understate how perfect the loan signing with the prospect of making them permanent after of Xavi Simons and Ugarte would be. If you've just joined the live stream, Roman has confirmed that Man United have inquired to PSG about a number of players. Now, Man United have inquired to PSG about permanent deals, about loan deals. But imagine if we could get both Ugarte and Xavi Simons on loan with an option to buy. Imagine that. You get Xavi Simons and Ugarte on loan next season with an option to buy. What a brilliant deal. What a brilliant bit of business that would be. Do I think it will happen? No, because it's such a good bit of business. That Man United won't do it. It's such smart business that Man United won't do it. But what a deal that would be. What an absolute deal that would be to get, Xavi Simons and Ugarte in on loan. I'd be all over that as well. Calafiori's good. United should sign him. I'd be all over Man United signing Calafiori, but we're not really in for him. And I think because he's having a good Euros, there's going to be a lot of competition. And I think one thing about Italian players is they like to stay in Italy. So I see him going to Juventus probably. Another thing is if he's had a good Euros, there's going to be a lot of competition. It's like Locatelli. The Euros 3 years ago, we were thinking, oh, Locatelli, he looks sick. Like, let's go for Locatelli. He was going to stay in Italy. There was going to be a lot of competition. The price goes up because of a good Euros. I like Calafiori, but realistically, if he goes to the Premier League, he's going to a Champions League club. And unfortunately, that isn't us at the moment. I would have a look at Hato of Ajax, potentially maybe next season. He's a young player. I think Hincapie could be a good player by Leverkusen. Pacho of Frankfurt reminds me a little bit of Calafiori in that aspect. There is some really good players in the left centre-back hybrid market, because with, Calafiori has the ability to play left-back, but there's also a lot of other good players in the market that have the ability to play left centre-back, have the ability to play left-back, that is definitely worth and open to exploring as well. Barcelona want a swap deal. De Jong for Maino, big no. Yeah, like no chance as well. I'm going to tell you this now. Any news stories about Frankie de Jong to Manchester United, can you just ignore? Any news stories, any reports about Frankie de Jong to United, ignore. It's not going to happen. We're not going to pay Frankie's wages. We're not going to get Frankie de Jong because we need a 6, not an 8. Any story about Frankie de Jong to United, do not believe it. It is fake. Absolutely ignore it. Not worth the time. I'll tell you that as well. Bosh, guys, we have hit 150 likes. Let's go and push for 200 likes. So please do continue to hit that like button. It does help out the channel as well. Calafiori has a 50% sell-on clause from Basel. He'll be expensive as well. That is a good point as well. Vitinha is having a decent Euros as well. Portugal haven't been super impressive, but they have won both their games, and Bruno and Vitinha have been some of those players that looked good. Getting Todibo will give structure to our transfer window. That's like the most important position sorted. The way I see it is this. Okay, hear me out. This is really unrealistic, but hear me out. All right, we get Todibo 35 billion. We find a way around it. We get the lawyers out. Bosh. Perfect. Todibo 35 million. We get Yusuf Fofana for 25 million. We've got Todibo and Yusuf Fofana for 60 million. Bosh. We get Ugarte on loan with option to buy. We get Xavi Simons on loan with option to buy. We get Xerxes in for 34 million. Bosh. And then we go out and have the funds to sign a young left back. What a transfer window that would be. Like, money-wise, value for money-wise, probably not going to happen because it's good. It's unrealistic. But imagine we find a loophole around Todibo. We get Todibo and Fofana for 60 million. Then we only have to spend 34 million on Xerxes plus agent fees, which rounds it to 100 million. Imagine getting Todibo, Xerxes and Fofana for 100 million combined. And then your other 2 signings are loans with options to buy an Ugarte and Xavi Simons. You get 5 decent players for 100 million pounds. I mean, bash. That would be some window. That would be some absolute brilliant window, wouldn't it? Where's Mount going to play? I see Mason Mount as someone that can potentially play on the wing, but ultimately, I do see Mason Mount as more of a backup to Bruno Fernandes. He can play on the wing, he can provide help on the wing, but I think deep down, Mason Mount is definitely more of a rotation option for Bruno Fernandes as well. Is it true that Man United are making a second bid for Ugarte? I don't know, because apparently, according to Romano, we didn't make a first bid. French sources are saying we made a bid for Ugarte, we're coming in and making a second bid for Ugarte. Romano is just saying, look, we spoke to PSG about Ugarte and a number of other players at PSG. Like, our interest in Ugarte is genuine. We spoke to PSG about it. La da da, la da da, la da da. But Romano's not giving anything in like crazy detail about us going for Ugarte. He's just saying, look, Man United have explored the deal. But he's not saying there's been a bid or anything. 30 likes away from 200 likes, guys, so do continue to hit that like button. Benny McCarthy has left United. I think Benny McCarthy, he seemed to do well with the players in his first season, but there was reports about him being a little bit inappropriate in his second season, which could be another reason why he's gone. I also think that Ineos deep down probably didn't want to keep Ten Hag, hence why they were talking to Tuchel and other clubs. So I think as well that maybe they wanted to get rid of his coaching staff, like Van der Gaag and obviously Benny McCarthy. But if you're getting rid of Van der Gaag and Benny McCarthy and you're bringing in Ruud van Nistelrooy, you can't complain about that in the slightest. You can't complain about that in the slightest. Apparently United are looking at Eze. I don't think we're looking at Eze. I know Tottenham are looking at Eze. I know Arsenal have shown some interest in Eze. I don't think United are looking at Eze because we signed Mount last summer. Imagine if we signed Mount last summer and we signed Eze this summer, who's a brilliant player, but we don't get a 6. It would make no sense. I don't think Ineos are that stupid. So I don't believe the stories that Manchester United are looking at Eze in all honesty as well. You're dreaming, Alice, but I like your style. I am dreaming. I don't think it's going to happen, but I am dreaming as well. The perfect moment to sign Desiree. Have plenty of wingers we can't get rid of, and he has time to adapt 2 games and hit the ground running. I mean, for me, we have to sell one of the wingers to get Desiree in. That's the annoying thing. Desiree Doué would be an unbelievable, brilliant signing for Manchester United. He's a 18-year-old that I think has got a Ballon d'Or ceiling. But when we've got Sancho, Greenwood and Anthony that we don't want at the club, who are just going to be sitting there not playing, using up wages, we ideally need to get one of them out. For me, if you can get 30 million for Greenwood and then go and literally spend that money right on Desiree Doué, that's some really, really good business as well, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I Desiree Doué to Man United, I'm not 100% sure that happens. Alice, do you think we'll find a loophole for Todibo? I think we can. I think the fact that Chelsea are finding so many loopholes, that so many other clubs are finding so many loopholes, I think there could be a way. I want to talk about one thing, and that is Ineos' handling of the women's team. Someone's raised issue to this, and it's not been particularly good. So basically, Ineos are basically saying, we're refurbing Carrington, so the women's team could go and change in some portable changing rooms, and we're going to give the men the women's facilities. And Devil's DNA said this: not a good look. Ineos' handling of the women's team so far has been wanting. Everyone understands men's team is priority, but lack of communication on women's team for months. Interview answers referring for men's team and first team. This is giving more uncaring vibes so far. And I have to agree. One thing I've not been impressed with Ineos is the disrespect towards the women's team. The women's team were not informed of any decision. The women's team win the FA Cup, but Ineos cancelled the award ceremony because the men's team hasn't played well, which I don't think is fair on the women's and youth team. Cool, cancel the ceremony, because the award ceremony, because the men's team haven't been great, but do an award ceremony for the women and youth team. Ineos ignore that. Basically, Man United lost one of their best women's players last season to Arsenal. They're probably going to lose Mary Earps. They're probably going to lose all their best players this season. Jim Ratcliffe when asked about the women's team, said we're focusing on the first team first. Ineos are completely disregarding the women's side, and that's something that they need to improve, because at the end of the day, it's not as big as the men's side. It's not going to generate anywhere near as much money as the men's side. But we're in a place where women's football is growing, women's football is getting bigger, and you don't want to be the team that's behind on that. And you've also got to realise that this is a team as well, but they're really not treating it well. The women's staff is being moved into porter cabins. The squad staff is disappointed with that decision. The women's won the FA Cup, and he just ignored that. Ratcliffe needs to step up on that. Ineos do need to step up on that, because it's not a good look, because, we want to be the best everywhere. It's not just about having the best men's team. It's the best youth team. It's the best women's team. We want to be the best everywhere. And that's something that we need to improve as well. 185 likes, guys. Please do continue to hit that like button as well. I'd rather that Portuguese lad from Benfica instead of Ugarte. I can't remember his name. João Neves. On the ball, João Neves, unbelievable. Off the ball, Ugarte is better. Ugarte is more of an out-and-out 6, but I think João Neves is probably going to be a better player than Ugarte. In an ideal world, Matt Sweefer and João Neves. If I could control the transfer market and we had Todd Bowie, Chelsea kind of money, then it would be looking at, João Neves and Matt Sweefer as our midfield signings. Todibo and Branthwaite as our centre-back signings. I would have hijacked the Maatsen deal at left-back, even though that was giving money to Chelsea. I would have gone out and got Desiree Doué because we can't get Elise in. I'd go in for Cunha. In an ideal world, it would be amazing to get Jan Evers in as well. Could we bring in another 1 or 2 academy prospects? I would definitely keep an eye on Harry Amas. In terms of academy prospects, Harry Amas is one I would massively keep an eye on. You know, he's obviously very highly rated within the club. He's a very, very good young left-back. In terms of other academy prospects, Shea Lacey, but if he can stay fit, Shea Lacey's definitely had a few injury issues there, but if Shea Lacey can stay fit, I think they're ones to watch. Ethan Wheatley, Toby Collier, definitely other names to keep an eye on. Ethan Williams as well. Earps is set to go to PSG as well, which is a bit of a loss there as well. Wishing her the best in France as well. But it's annoying how we've neglected the women's team really badly under Rinios. We really, really have. And that's what they need to sort of. I know the men's team is the priority. I know the men's team is the third thing. I know the men's team is what we're more invested in personally. But you have to show that respect. You have to show that respect across the thing, and we're not getting that from Ineos as well. Breaking, Ineos have hired a lawyer in an attempt to unblock the Jean-Claude Todibo deal. Other sources are saying that Ineos are confident they can find the loophole and get a deal for Todibo done. If the deal was unblocked, Manchester United will be probably... If Manchester United can unblock the deal for Todibo, a £31 million deal is likely to be agreed. So Nice are holding on to Todibo for United. They're working around the clock to see if we can get a deal over the line for Todibo to United, and I really hope we do. I really hope we can get a Todibo deal over the line. I really, really hope we do. But listen, people, I'm going to round up today's live show here. Please do hit that like button if you have not already, and of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video as it really helps out the channel. I will be back later with a live stream. I do apologise the first live stream crashed. See you guys next time. Bye.